Hello everyone, it's Voksy here. This is a update video on my battle with post-traumatic stress disorder and my ongoing therapy in my road to recovery. For those that don't know, I have post-traumatic stress from a sexual abuse incident that happened by someone from the Furry community back in 2015. And the people in that community at the time tried to silence me when I was finally able to speak out about it. And there were other people in the local community, including two intimate partners and also my sister, who would go and deceive me and betray me, which was very triggering for me to deal with. And so as a result, I now experience a thing called psychogenic non-epileptic seizures, which is a very horrid thing to live with. But if you don't have control over it and you don't have a choice, such is life. You have to accept it for what it is and realize that you have no choice. So I'm in that boat. I have no choice. However, I have been making these videos, as you all may know, that are my renewed cry for help, and it has been received very well, which I am so humbled by, from people speaking up, offering their words of support. It has made a world of difference to me. It really has. It has made a world of difference to me, more than words can truly say. I really mean that. Because as a result of the support that I've received, I have been able to change my physiological response to certain triggers, one of those triggers being certain furry dominated platforms such as Twitter. I'm now able to be on Twitter with minimal anxiety, as opposed to originally I would experience panic attacks or major anxiety swings when I was on that platform. And it's tricky because in the psychology world, the moment that you're dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, that's a really difficult thing to deal with, because there is a chance that those triggers may remain with you forever. But there's a few things that you can do to fix that. And while I didn't have a say in how people treated me when I was crying for help, I have a say now because I have more control now. I have more support now. And I've also completed a thing called Emdr therapy. Emdr stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. It is incredibly useful and helpful, and it has the power to lessen or even remove a physiological response that you have to certain triggers. This could be something like, if you have a phobia of certain bugs, you could do EMDR therapy to fix that phobia of those certain bugs. Or in my case, I had post-traumatic stress from the sexual abuse case that happened towards me. I was able to complete EMDR therapy about that, and now I can recall the name of the furry who did what he did, and I can visualize his face. I can recount everything that had occurred in our dealings with one another, and I can do so without a physiological response, whereas originally I would have a panic attack when I would even think about using his name. So, let alone seeing any visual in my mind of him. Now, in the latter end of the EMDR therapy, we had moved on to what my recent ex-partner and my sister had done. Both of them are part of the furry community, quite heavily involved in the furry community. And I basically had been betrayed and deceived by them. And that, when you have severe post-traumatic stress disorder, can be so damaging that it can break you. And what happened for me is it broke me, and as a result I developed a thing called PNES Psychogenic Non-Epileptic Seizures. And this is something that I live with now when I am faced with triggers that my brain cannot deal with. These are to the point where if I see someone in the same room as me that I've seen leave a car of theirs that has furry related stickers on there, or if they're wearing a furry related t-shirt, I run a very high risk of having a seizure. And it's because my brain cannot process the amount of danger that it perceives itself to be in, which is really bizarre because the triggers are very specific. It does not include my fox suit. So that's, like, Fox has always been my fluffy support animal, and I'm very grateful for that. And that's a complicated topic that, I try to explain as best as I can because it's really quite contradictory when you think of it. But whenever I am in a situation where there is a direct face-to-face communication, or if there is any reliving of a traumatic event, for example, I the other night had seen certain pictures to do with my sister and my ex, which luckily did not result in a seizure, but left me experiencing panic attacks all night. So I haven't slept at all last night, and today I had day 1 of therapy for EMDR season 2, which I'll get into in a moment. But those triggers I have no control over. They just exist. And it's tricky because it's dealing with a family member, so you can't sort of fully remove yourself from that. And there's also the fact that I know in all truth that it's not the furry community who did this, it is people in the local community that did this. And they're still around today. A friend of mine had tried sharing one of my videos to one of the local Facebook groups, and his post request was kicked offline. And so again, there's still an effort to silence my cries for help when all I need is for people to hear my story, or at least to read the description of my story in that first video that I uploaded, and to leave a supportive comment that says, "Hey, crazy dude in the fox suit, what happened to you was wrong. We respect that that was wrong, and we did not ever want that to happen to you because we had no involvement in it. And as a result, we condemn what happened to you, and we will stand by you," right? it's more from that condemnation standpoint of people saying, I do not stand for what happened to you, but I stand with you. And that's been, so far, the messages that I've received that have that condemnation are the reason why I've been able to change my physiological response to Twitter, which was a hangout space that all furries are quite familiar with. And it would always give me panic attacks or major anxiety swings when I was on there, and now I'm able to be on there with minor anxiety unless I'm presented with something that relives recent trauma, such as what happened with my sister and what happened with my ex-partner. So it's really tricky, but moving to the moment of now, what's occurred today is magnificent. Today is day one of me beginning eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing therapy number 2. So I've already had one round of this, which went for similar time, 12 to 14 weeks. It was very rough, it was very difficult. This therapy will go for 16 weeks. I think 18 weeks all up, because there's like 2 weeks break at a point, as my psychologist goes on a brief holiday in that time. And so I will be starting this EMDR journey, and things will be different for me and my life in that time. For example, I will need to be mindful of remaining within a certain tolerance of anxiety and of panic in regards to my triggers. So I might not be as active on Twitter, on YouTube. I may be in a state where I just need to be in my own sense of calmness and stillness and peace, while we allow my brain to process correctly what is happening. Because EMDR therapy is a very strange kind of therapy. For those who don't know anything about it, I could be wrong in explaining it like this, but it is my understanding that EMDR kind of accesses rapid eye movement sleep, except while you're awake, and you're able to consciously access the subconscious, which you normally don't get to do that. Like, that's just out of bounds. You don't have control over that. But there's a technique that therapists can study, and once they have studied it and have their qualifications in it, they're able to practice that with clients. And so my psychologist knows how to do EMDR therapy, and we were able to completely remove the physiological response that I have to the person who sexually abused me. So there is a chance that I could get my life back, and I could be able to be in Melbourne without any anxiety of seeing someone be part of the furry community and then me having a seizure, because that's how severe my PTSD is. It's ridiculous, because it almost seems hypocritical, really. Here I am wearing this giant fox costume. I also have a friend who has no connection to the furry community. I'm fine with him, because of his experiences and his own he has a very negative experience with that community. And so for the most part, I was really okay with him and his costumes, and we would catch up and either go out shooting together for photos or do charity work together. It's been years since that's happened, and I would love to be able to do that again. But yeah, fascinating that the triggers did not include him, but they absolutely do include the general furry community face to face. And so anyway, with this EMDR therapy, we are looking to completely eliminate that physiological response and to change the way my brain has processed what has happened, because my brain actually has not processed what has happened. And with PNES, with the psychogenic seizures, they're a very fascinating thing, because what's happening with them, and I will likely experience one during EMDR therapy, but we're hopeful that I won't, because I need to remain within that tolerance. But the fascinating thing with those seizures is that they seem to me and to my psychologist, we've sort of bounced this between us a bit, it seems as if they are a result of my brain being unable to process what it is that it needs to process. And so if I'm seeing something that triggers me greatly, for example, it's pictures of my ex or my sister, and then my brain starts reliving the deception, the betrayal that they had done towards me. My brain doesn't process it, and so eventually I start to stutter, and in that stuttering I'll generally develop psychogenic tremors, and I'll start in my dominant hand, and so my hand will be sort of like this basically, and then eventually it'll move like all up my arm and then eventually into my neck, and so basically I'll be sitting there like that basically. And at that point what also begins to spasm is my lungs, and so my lungs are breathing in out really quickly, and so there's like rapid breathing, like that sort of level of breathing. My throat will then close up, and then everything stops, and my whole body goes into a fit. I choke and gasp for air. When I can eventually breathe, my throat is mostly still closed up, and it's my understanding that every time I'm screaming, it's actually because I'm gasping for air so hard and with so much intensity while my throat is still seized shut, which is really fascinating. And I have no control over this. This just happens and is something that I live with, whether I like it or not at the moment. Which is why I'm experimenting. It's why I'm doing everything in my power to step up, to get my voice out there, to get my message heard, and to ask people in the furry community to leave supportive comments that say, hey man, don't you worry, because we've got your back. Because so far that has had a significantly positive impact, and if I match that with EMDR therapy, basically what's going to what should happen is my brain will say, hey mate, don't worry, it's not furries who are the problem, it is the bad people. And the bad people happen to naturally all be in the furry community because of the fact that I was dating a furry at the time. He was the one that then sexually abused me, and then naturally it was all that friend circle, and that friend circle was quite large because he was an artist. He was a very a sociopathic person, so naturally you have people within your circle because you sort of attract all of all variety of people, because there's a very strange thing that happens with that kind of personality, and yeah, basically, yeah, we are wanting to completely withdraw any physiological response that I have with anything and anyone in the furry community, including my sister, including my ex-partners, and if that does happen, my physiological response to my sister and my ex-partners will most likely be replaced with some form of repulsion, some form of gut sickness, but not anxiety. It'll be more like I am gut sick and repulsed by their existence, so I'll turn around and walk away. And if I can have that, that's significantly better than me having a psychogenic seizure and then being unable to breathe, unable to move, and then be in a major depressive state following that for the next day or 2 days, and then have a hangover for 3 to 4 days due to the stress that it has on my brain and my body. So yeah, this was meant to be a quick update. This is now not so much a quick update. I'm terribly sorry. But this is really good news, everyone. This is incredibly good news. So I am going to continue making videos when I can, covering the process of EMDR therapy for me and my story, because I feel that this is important, at least for me, to be able to share my experiences and get my voice heard. But it also may help people who are also experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder, because it is an awful thing to live with. I've heard someone liken post-traumatic stress disorder to a form of psychological cancer, and when they explained it and elaborated on it, it made, unfortunately, a lot of sense, which is that it does continue to grow around parts of the brain if you're not careful and if you're unlucky with the circumstances that you happen to be in at the time of the event and following the event when you have your cries for help. So in my case, this is possibly the eradication of that cancer as much as is possible. There'll still be some effects of post-traumatic stress disorders, such as hyperarousal, is my understanding. So basically that refers to if I'm in a supermarket, I'm going to be naturally quite on the lookout for triggers, and so I can get quite fatigued and I can get quite dizzy and immediately feel unwell. But there's also a chance that could change as well. We're just very hopeful. We're very hopeful that we can fix post-traumatic stress disorder for me. And if we are able to, and I'm able to have the success that I'm having, because my PTSD is a really bad case, right? It is a really aggressive and bad case of PTSD. If we can fix that and I can get my life back, it is not only going to be amazing news for me, but also amazing news for anyone experiencing post-traumatic stress. So again, thank you all for hanging with me with my journey so far. It really does mean a lot to me. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel. It really has a massive impact on not only the way that I can see that support coming in from you all, but it also helps get my message out there into the world. And I do post some fun videos as well, you know, about a whole bunch of things, different mental health related things, and live streaming and whatnot, and it's quite enjoyable. So thank you again, truly, for everyone that has stepped up and helped. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will continue these updates on my journey. This was week 1 of 16, 17 weeks of eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. Today was the setting the game plan, and next week we will begin EMDR. And so it's going to be very rough. Oh, it's going to be very rough, but this could be it. This could be me getting my life back. Again, thank you, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye for now.